The stage is now set for the men's War Games match at Survivor Series, and as I predicted, it's all those that have been wronged by the Bloodline. Banding together, trying to get revenge. That looks to be the main event for Survivor Series. We had another excellent entry in the series of matches that date back about 8 years between the New Day and the Usos tonight. The Usos retain their WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships, which means that they will break the record this Monday as the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. We had the beginning of the first ever Smackdown World Cup tournament. We know the names of the participants. We had our first couple of matches tonight. We also had Ronda Rousey's next challenger determined. We know who Ronda Rousey will be defending her championship against at Survivor Series. We had a six-pack challenge tonight. That was not very good at all. And Liv Morgan had something in mind that did not go according to plan, and it completely fell apart at the end of that match. So not a very good six-pack challenge, but Ronda Rousey has her opponent. Bray Wyatt appears to have his first opponent. We don't know when they may be meeting, but very intrigued by what they did with Bray Wyatt tonight. Another backstage segment, but it looks like he may have his first opponent. I would call that a pretty eventful episode of SmackDown. And this is your WWE Smackdown review for Friday, November 11, 2022. I would like to give a shout out to all of our veterans, all the men and women who have served here in this country. I want to thank you for your service and welcome to the Smackdown review here tonight. Super chats are open. You can go ahead and send them on in. I'll be reading your super chats and trying to answer your questions as we go along here a little bit later on. And the goal for tonight is 500 likes. So if we can hit 500 on this video, which does help the visibility of the video, so please go ahead and hit the like button if you would be so kind. But if we hit 500 during the live stream, we will do Be the Booker at the very end of the night. Want to give a quick plug for our 15-year anniversary t-shirt, which is up right now in our store at prowrestlingtees.com/Solomonster Sounds Off. Of course, you could always find the link in the description down below. The new 15-year anniversary logo shirt is up. Shout out to the one and only Steve Mello for his help, as always, in making that a reality. So please go ahead and show some love for 15 years of the podcast. That is up on prowrestlingtees.com. And I want to mention something else here as well, because the change hit the channel here a few days ago. I know it's hitting a whole bunch of different YouTube channels in the way that videos are organized on the main page. So you may have noticed that when you go to the main page on the Sound Off YouTube channel, typically the way things would work, the most recent videos, including live streams, would be listed first. Now they've changed it. Now everything is assorted by tabs. And so the most recent videos that you see are uploads. I upload clips every week, but the live streams now are one level below. So don't be confused. I know some people were confused. A few people said, "Oh, you haven't been streaming." Oh, I've been streaming every single day that I usually stream. It's just that YouTube, of course, has to go fuck everything up. And so they are organizing things a little bit differently. So that's why I tell everybody, when you're subscribed, make sure your notifications are on. So that way, when I do go live, you'll be notified in case you forget. But do not be alarmed. It is just the way that YouTube is organizing things now. There's nothing I can do about it. They do not give content creators the option to go back to the way things used to be, because, of course, that would be too easy. But I just wanted to make you aware of that little change in case anybody knows what... doesn't know, I should say, what's going on. Now you do. SmackDown opened with a new intro. They have new music. AC/DC is out. I did not recognize the new song that they were using. I don't know if it's in-house music or what, but AC/DC is no more. The show started with the main event, and I see what they did at the end of the show. I know why they did that, but I actually like the fact that they opened the show with this, because it wasn't a case where you were looking at the clock and said, "Oh, this match is coming to an end. Oh, there's only 2 minutes left." When you open when you open the show with a match like this, it's open-ended. I mean, they could have gone the entire hour. So they opened with the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship on the line. The Usos defending against the New Day. trying to stop the Usos from breaking their own record as the longest reigning tag team champions in company history, 483 days. It was the New Day many years ago that surpassed Demolition for the top spot. They were trying to preserve their spot now by winning back the titles. Usos were at 481 days tonight. Coming into this show, 483 was the record, so whoever was going to walk out of this match as the champions, that would pretty much solidify the record for the Usos if they won. The New Day have been 11-time tag team champions. The Usos have been tag team champions a total of 8 different times in their career. Countless matches between these two teams going all the way back to 2014. But none as important as this one in quite some time. Right? We've seen tons of New Day and Usos matches, for championships, Hell in a Cell, all kinds of different stipulations. But it's been a while since we've had a match this important between these two teams. And I always say it's much better when you have stakes that are on the line. That's been my issue with Survivor Series now, the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing for years. And why I'm so happy that Triple H has junked the entire concept. Because without there being anything on the line, without there being any actual stakes, it's hard to really care. But the stakes were high here in this match. Jey Uso had his wrist and some of his fingers taped up, although it was never a factor in this match. Michael Cole briefly acknowledged it, and it was never mentioned again. It didn't come into play. Shout out to Rodimus Prime, hanging out with us on a Friday night. Thank you for the $15, Rodimus. I do love seeing that. So Kofi Kingston hit both Usos with a trust fall from the top rope out to the floor. That took us into our first ad break of the night. Usos on the other side isolated Kingston. The crowd was chanting, "We want Sami." This crowd wanted Sami Zayn tonight in the worst way. They did not get Sami Zayn. Michael Cole said on commentary that Sami was not here tonight due to a personal issue. And Jey Uso put his hands on his ears because he did not want to hear the chants of Sami Zayn. He says, "You're not getting Sami." But that's what the fans wanted. Kingston eventually kicked Jey away, and he dove for the tag. Jimmy, though, pulled Xavier Woods off the apron, so he was not able to make the tag. Jey caught Kofi with a neck breaker, covered him for a near fall. That took us into the second ad break. We came back, and Kofi was still fighting from underneath. Finally, he made the hot tag to Woods. He ran wild. He got the crowd into things. Good crowd tonight. They were in Indianapolis tonight. Good crowd overall. Woods tagged Kofi, unlike that other crowd. Where were they on Monday? It's been a long week. I don't remember where they were on Monday. Not Worcester. They were in West Virginia. Where were they on Monday? Well, that was an awful crowd. SmackDown tonight had a pretty good crowd in Indy. Woods tagged Kofi back into the ring. He was only in the ring for 90 seconds, and already he's tagging Kofi back. So I don't know about that. But he climbed up. He hit a top rope leg drop, did Xavier onto Jimmy before Xavier finally got out of the ring. Kofi made the cover. Jimmy kicked out at 2.5. Wilkes Bar, thank you. I tried to put it out of my mind. Pennsylvania. Boy, I thought they were in Virginia for some reason. Yeah, stay the hell out of Wilkes Bar. Come back to Indianapolis. Kofi hit the boom drop. He was setting up for Trouble in Paradise. Went for it. But Jimmy avoided it. Jey made a blind tag. Jey caught him with a super kick. Kofi came back with an SOS and got another close near fall. Usos came back with a double super kick to Xavier. Double super kick to knock Kofi off the apron. Another double super kick to Woods. Jimmy and Jey, they headed up top in opposite corners, and they came off at the exact same time. They connected with stereo Uso splashes. Usos were looking for the 1D after this, because they were not able to put him away with that. Somehow, Woods kicked out. And again, the crowd was now super into this now. So now the Usos were looking for the 1D. Kofi drags Jey out of the ring, sends him into the ring steps. Then he takes Jey and he places him across his knee. Xavier climbs up to the middle rope on the outside, and he hits the midnight hour on the floor. So that takes out Jey Uso. Back inside, Woods took Jimmy down with a DDT, and then they set Jimmy up for the midnight hour. Woods comes off the top with the double stomp. He hits the midnight hour. It looked like they had the match won. They covered Jimmy, but Jay made it back inside just in the nick of time to break up the fall. That is still, by the way, one of my favorite signs. Roman is a wank pheasant. I still don't know what that means. I'm sure that must have been from a UK show. I don't know what it means, but it puts a smile on my face every time I see that. Roman is a wank pheasant. So on the floor, Jey Uso delivered a super kick after saving the match. Jey delivers a super kick that sent Xavier Woods over the timekeeper's barricade. Inside the ring, both Usos had Kofi in trouble on the top rope. Kofi, though, managed to knock him off the ropes. And he repositioned himself, and he came off the top rope for what? I don't know. I don't know what he was going for. But he came off the top rope, and he jumped right into a 1D. And they took down Kofi Kingston. They hit the 1D. One and done. 23 minutes into this match. They pinned Kofi Kingston, and they secured their place in history. And so this Monday, maybe they'll have a big celebration on Raw, but on this Monday coming up, the Usos will officially hold the record as the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions of all time. They cut to the Bloodline locker room, and we saw Roman Reigns sitting in the in the chair they had there. Paul Heyman was standing there. Solo Sikoa was standing there. Again, no Sammy. Watching on the screen, and Roman looked very pleased with what he was seeing. I never thought the New Day had a chance of winning this match. So to me, it wasn't a case of, well, are they possibly going to have the New Day end this long run for the Usos? Like, there was never any doubt about how this match was going to go. But what they did was they did the best job they possibly could to convince you with all the dramatic near falls. And, the double Uso splash is what got me, because I was waiting for Kofi to make the save, and he didn't. But then Woods kicked out anyway, and that was the big near fall of the match. For a match that had such a predictable finish, for me, I thought they did a hell of a job on the near falls. The wrestling, of course, was great, but you're talking about two of the best tag teams in the world. I would expect nothing less from these two teams. So I thought they did as good of a job as they possibly could. The crowd was hanging on to every near fall in this match. And that is what happens when you have real stakes on the line. They built this whole record thing up for weeks. And that, coupled with the fact that the titles were on the line, and the Usos have been, tag team champions for so long, even the tease that there might be a title change, those two things together helped make for a great atmosphere. This was an excellent opener, and another fantastic entry in the series of matches over the years between the Usos and the New Day. Usos were back in the Bloodline's dressing room. They were in a very good mood. They were excited and asking Roman Reigns what he thought about what he just saw. And Roman was just expressionless. He was like Michael Myers here. He had no expression on his face. He stood up to confront his cousins, and then he smiled. He showed actual emotion. And he told them, it feels good, doesn't it? He told the Usos, this is what it feels like to be the greatest of all time. This is the promised land right here. He said that he had some things to handle, some business to take care of, and that he would need the Usos by his side later on in the night. He did not say for what. So we knew they were all going to be coming back out. We just did not know exactly what they were coming back out for, but I assumed that this was going to be the segment to set up the inevitable War Games match, and that's exactly what it was. So up next was the first match in the inaugural Smackdown World Cup tournament. They showed the trophy at ringside that the winner is going to be taking home. The winner, of course, will also get a shot at Gunther and the Intercontinental Championship. When? That they did not say. I'm assuming Survivor Series, but they didn't say when that title match would take place. But the match we got here was Shinsuke Nakamura one-on-one against Santos Escobar of Legado del Fantasma. So we know all the competitors now in this tournament. There was no bracket graphic that they showed, but the other 6 competitors in the tournament are Braun Strowman, Sami Zayn, Ricochet, Jinder Mahal, Butch, and Mustafa Ali. And you might say to yourself, Mustafa Ali? Didn't I just see him on Raw Monday night? Didn't I just see him get launched into the stratosphere by Bobby Lashley? Yes, you did. Indeed, you did. So basically what happened is Bobby Lashley threw him so far and threw him so hard that he landed on SmackDown. And earlier in the day, I don't know if they announced it or if this was just something Fightful report. I think WWE announced it. That one of the 6 competitors was going to be Rey Mysterio. So this feels like a late change. I don't know what happened. It could have just been that creative plans changed. I don't know if there was an injury. I don't know. But Rey Mysterio was originally earmarked for this, and it looks like Ali took Mysterio's place. Because all the other names were the same names I saw earlier today. And I know PW Insider had the names as well. Rey was on that list. Ali was not. So that looks to me like it was a late change. And it's very weird. And it makes me wonder. I don't know if Ali is permanently on SmackDown now. They did not say anything on commentary about Ali being traded to SmackDown like they did when we had the whole Corbin going to Raw thing and Rey going to SmackDown. They said it was a trade. There was no mention of that. It's entirely possible that it's a one-time thing and then he goes right back to Raw, but it makes me wonder, they were building to something, even before Crown Jewel, with Seth Rollins and Ali. And Ali attacked Seth, right, a couple of times on TV. We never got the match. Rollins has come off more like a babyface over the last couple of weeks. And in fact, they've already announced the match for Raw this coming Monday. It's going to be Seth Rollins one-on-one against Finn Balor. So it looks like Rollins may be a babyface now, and it makes me wonder if because of that change in direction, if that basically killed Ali's storyline, and so they decided to just shift him over to the SmackDown brand. I don't know. I don't want to jump the gun on that. It's still possible we could get Rollins and Ali, but boy, it sure seems like they have moved away from that. And based on what happened with him on Monday and the way he was treated at the end of that show, they didn't do this fucking guy any favors. So maybe it was just a creative change and they decided, well, we're not going with Ali and Rollins now, so let's just move him over to SmackDown. And honestly, I don't know that that was such a bad move. It was pretty clear Ali wasn't going nowhere on Raw. Michael Cole on commentary mentioned that Shinsuke Nakamura is wrestling the Great Muta at Budokan Hall on New Year's Day as part of Muta's retirement tour. So we got a Great Muta mentioned on commentary. They never mentioned Pro Wrestling Noah by name, but that is their show that they were making reference to. I wasn't expecting them to mention this at all on TV. So when he brought up Muta and Nakamura wrestling him on New Year's Day, I was actually very surprised. But there it is again. And I said it when the news first broke. I think, not that it's a quid pro quo, but I just think coming out of this, what WWE is going to get out of it is a Great Muta induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. So them mentioning him on TV and the fact that this match is even happening is just another sign to me that Muta is going into the Hall of Fame next year. So Nakamura rocked Escobar with an enziguri and then hit the sliding German suplex that he does in the ropes. Legado del Fantasma were outside. They caused a distraction. Nakamura recovered. He took out all the heels outside. Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde. Nakamura climbed up to the top rope. Escobar, though, cut him off, and then he won with a phantom driver from the middle rope, which was a great finish to an otherwise very average match. But the finish was great. You know, Nakamura just has no direction. The only direction that Nakamura has is east. He'll be headed to Japan in a few months. That's the only direction he's going in. He's going to leave the country because otherwise he's got no direction on this show. But this is all about Escobar. Escobar is the new guy. Escobar should not have been losing. I'm glad he won. But Nakamura just feels... Yeah, Nakamura now, it's almost like he's in the R-Truth role. You know, he's a good hand for them to have on the roster. They can pretty much plug him in anywhere they want to. They wanted to use him in NXT a few weeks ago, so he went back to NXT for a match. But they don't really have any plans for him. You know, that's why Triple H was like, shit, you want to go work in Japan? I don't give a shit. It's not like you're doing anything else for us. So my hope is that they're not just waiting for his partner to come back. Mr. Oh God, Boy, it really is true, isn't it? Out of sight, out of mind. But his partner who went down with an injury at WrestleMania, he's been gone, for quite a while. I hope they're not just waiting for him to come back and they're just going to put them back together as a tag team. And that's the best they could come up with for Nakamura. But he just feels very cold right now. But, again, I look at this tournament, we see Escobar advancing, and there's plenty of good options for him as far as who he faces next in the tournament. You've got Ricochet, you've got Ali. Hell, Escobar against Butch. If Butch were to advance, and we know Butch is wrestling Sami Zayn next week, and probably not winning. But lots of good options for him. And the one that really put Rick Boogs, thank you. Rick Boogs. I'll tell you, man, when you disappear from TV, you disappear from the Solomonster's mind. Although he lost his mind a long time ago, I have to say. But the idea, as I think about this, and he's not going to win. I know he's not going to win. But just the possibility of us being able to get Butch and Gunther on the main roster. I mean, as great of a match, as great as it's been seeing them in the ring before when, the NXT UK days, to see them on the main roster, just knowing at some point that should be a match that we get puts a smile on my face. Now, backstage later in the show, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but Ricochet was being interviewed in the back. And Ricochet talked about wrestling Mustafa Ali next week. And if you have never seen any of their matches on Main Event, because they had like a gazillion matches on Main Event, that has not even the potential, that is going to steal the show. They're going to have a fucking great match. Braun Strowman may not be watching the match. Braun Strowman, when that match is going on, will probably be, off eating some chicken breast somewhere with his fucking headphones on. But it's going to be a fucking great match when we get those two in the ring. So Megan Morant was in the back and she was interviewing LA Knight. And LA Knight was complaining about not being in the Smackdown World Cup. He called it a major fumble. He noticed that Megan was not paying attention to him. She kept looking at the monitor behind him. Because on the monitor behind him, Bray Wyatt's moth logo kept appearing. And it would disappear, and then it would appear again. And finally, he's like, what are you looking at? You should be paying attention to me. And then he turned around, and then he saw the video. And he was very upset that this video was being shown, and he complained to somebody off camera. And then when he turned around, he saw Bray Wyatt. Megan was gone. Either that or she morphed into Bray. But there he was. Bray Wyatt was standing there yet again in the back. I guess Bray just hangs out in the back now. He's basically like a gopher. I don't know what he does back there other than just pace around and talk to himself. But there he was, face to face with LA Knight. And he said, boy, I could see all the anger brewing inside you. He said, I know what that feels like. He said people have told him that the rage inside of him would make him into a monster. And he remembered saying that he's not proud of the things that he does, but then he laughed, and he said that he's not sure how true that is anymore. And Wyatt said that he knows what it takes to get respect. He asked LA Knight how far he was willing to go. Knight told Bray to go back to his romper room, play with his puppets, and stick them anywhere that gives him pleasure. The monitor flickered with the Wyatt logo again behind him, and Bray gave Knight a headbutt, which took him down. Knight collapsed in a heap. And then Bray walked off, and LA Knight got back up, and he was a little loopy, and he looked around, and he didn't know where Bray disappeared to. And that was the segment. So this was unexpected, but Bray Wyatt and LA Knight, I like that. Not something I was expecting, and I like that. It sounds like a very prominent spot for LA Knight to be in. Yeah, I know he's probably not going to end up coming out of that with a win, but I'm intrigued, and I want to see where this goes now. But it looks like we finally have a direction for Bray Wyatt as far as who the first opponent is going to be for Bray when he gets back in the ring. And maybe that's the match at Survivor Series. Maybe Bray will wrestle LA Knight at Survivor Series. So I like it just because it's something that I had not really been thinking about. It's an interesting direction to go in. But it's also good that we finally know, okay, we have a sense of who Bray is actually going to be getting in the ring with at some point. Because these promos can only go on for so long. At some point, he has to get in the ring with somebody, and there has to be some story that focuses on the action, right? We have a lot of talking so far. But with Bray, you've got to start mixing in the action. I think people are going to start to get antsy. Survivor Series sounds like a good time to get him in the ring for that first match back. We had a six-pack challenge. This here was the low point of the show. Six-pack challenge, Tornado rules. To determine a number one contender for the SmackDown Women's Championship, the winner would meet Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series. Liv Morgan, Raquel Gonzalez, or Raquel Rodriguez, lapsing back to the NXT days. Sonya Deville, Shotzi, Xia Li, and Lacey Evans, who they dusted off for Veterans Day, and they will put back on the shelf tomorrow. This was, in a word, a mess. This was a mess. Everybody was fighting all around ringside at the start. It's Tornado rules, so no tags. Everybody's just basically brawling. Morgan and Deville, who just blew off their feud, right? They had the blow off to their feud, are right back at it here again on SmackDown this week. So they were going at it for a while. Liv set up the ring steps, but Sonya dropped her on the steps instead. Xia and Lacey, they had an exchange in the ring that looked just fucking terrible. Everyone else was lying around ringside. Morgan fired up, ran wild on Xia and Lacey. She caught Rodriguez with a DDT. Sonya tried to steal the pin. Morgan broke up the pin attempt. So Rodriguez hit the Tejana bomb on Xia Li, and seemingly she had the match won. Sonya pulled her out of the ring. And so the fans were chanting, "We want tables, we want tables." And so Raquel obliged, and she pulled a table out from under the ring. And she set the table up outside. This was right in front of where the announce desk was, if you want to visualize this. So she sets the table up, which was, by the way, that was the only real reaction that anything got in this match, was the fucking table. They set the table up in front of where the ring steps were, because the ring steps had been moved over. She was setting up for something, Raquel was, and what happened next is very strange. So my sense, from what I saw, is that Liv Morgan, the idea was, Liv Morgan was going to leap from the top of the front row barricade, probably into her Oblivion finish, and take Raquel down with the Oblivion, or maybe she was just going to tackle her with a crossbody and put her through the table. I think that was the idea. Something through the table. That's why the table was there. Now, why she would do this from the barricade, it looked to me like she came off the barricade. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the camera didn't get a full view. Why you would come off the barricade when she had a lot of distance to cover. The announce desk was right there. So she could have jumped from the barricade to the announce desk and from the announce desk onto Raquel. It didn't look like she did that. So she misjudged this in some way. And the idea was that they would go through the table. That didn't happen. This got badly botched. And instead they hit the edge of the table, and then they landed underneath the table. And they were laid out on the floor. And somebody could have been legitimately hurt off of this, and hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully everybody is okay. But this was not good. And I will admit, I did laugh, because after the spot happened, the crowd chanted for the table. I mean, they were chanting for the table. Like the table was the biggest star in the entire match, which it was. There was nobody in this match more over than the table. So in the ring, Shotzi pins Xia. Very flat finish. I mean, I can't even blame them. Not that the rest of the match was any good, but after that spot, there was no coming back from that. So it's going to be Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series, defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Shotzi. The last time we saw Shotzi, and maybe the only time that we saw Shotzi and Ronda in the ring together, they had a match on TV back in June. So it's not a first time ever match. Again, that may have been the only time they've ever done it. It's someone new, I suppose, but this is not a match that has me excited at all to see Ronda Rousey defending the SmackDown Women's title. If it were me, I would give the table the title shot against Ronda Rousey, because there was no woman I saw in this match who will put up more of a challenge than the table will. Maybe they could still add the table, make it a triple threat. Ronda Rousey defends against Shotzi in the table at Survivor Series. But yeah, this was no good. Backstage, Shotzi was all excited. She was with her tank. See, because she's going to War Games. She's going to Survivor Series with War Games. She's going to drive her tank into the War Games edition of Survivor Series. She was in the back. She was confronted by Emma. And Emma congratulated her on her big win. Emma said, have you seen Madcap anywhere? And Shotzi said that she had not seen him, but she said, oh, you look like you're crushing on him. And Emma told her to shut up, and she was blushing, and then she walked off to go look for him. So they're going from real-life couple to TV couple. They're going to be putting the two of them together, it looks like. As soon as she walked away, Shotzi turned around, and there was Shayna Baszler, who was very sarcastically congratulating her on her win, and said that all she did was win the right to get her arm broken. She talked some crap to Shayna. Shayna said, well, why don't you say it to Ronda's face? And Shotzi turned around, and there was Ronda Rousey. And Shotzi then got choked out by Shayna from behind. Ronda and Shayna walked off. Ronda said, clean up on aisle green, as she walked away. We had Braun Strowman, who reportedly has quite a bit of heat behind the scenes for his dumb tweets last week. He went from tweet number 1 to tweet number, I was just kidding. So he has a lot of heat behind the scenes. He went one-on-one with Jinder Mahal in another first-round match in the Smackdown World Cup tournament. Jinder Mahal, who we have not seen on television in months, has reappeared for the World Cup. And he was standing outside the ring. He had a microphone. They gave him promo time. And he said that he was looking at the trophy, and he said, the greatest WWE champion of all time has returned. And I looked around, and I said, I don't see him anywhere. He said that there was no man who could stop him from winning the tournament and winning back the Intercontinental title. Did he say winning back? Was he the Intercontinental champion? I don't think he was the Intercontinental champion. Maybe he didn't say win back. He was the U.S. champion, right? Was Jinder Mahal Intercontinental champion? Somebody remind me. I have no recollection if he was. So, Jinder attacked Strowman before the bell. Strowman rallied. He hit his running shoulder block on the outside. The Strowman Express went outside the ring, barreled over Jinder Mahal. Back in the ring, he clotheslined Mahal, powerbombed him, pinned him. So Braun Strowman advances, and he will wrestle in the next round in 2 weeks. Against who, we don't know. But oh, how poetic it would be if Braun Strowman went on to lose to either Ricochet or Mustafa Ali, whoever wins their match next week. How poetic would it be for Braun Strowman to lose to one of the flippy-floppy wrestlers here in this tournament? They could turn the whole thing into a storyline. It would be David slaying Goliath. It works so well. It would be such an appropriate finish, but I don't think they're going to be doing that. So we were supposed to have a match with Zelina Vega, one-on-one with B-Fab, and that had me very concerned. I said we were doing so well. Actually, we weren't doing well. We had that awful six-pack challenge, but you know, on the whole, I was enjoying the show for the most part. And then I saw that it was going to be B-Fab against Zelina Vega, and supposedly this is the reason why they put Zelina Vega with Legado del Fantasma, because they knew they were going to be doing matches with B-Fab. And the idea of doing B-Fab and Elektra Lopez, if you saw the match that B-Fab and Elektra Lopez had on NXT many, many months ago, no bueno. And so the idea of doing that on the main roster was terrifying. They wanted somebody who actually had more experience and more skill if they were going to be having her work matches, maybe on the live events or on TV with B-Fab. So, and I get that. But B-Fab in the ring, she's not ready for this spot. B-Fab is a great part of the Hit Row act. I always thought she was when they had Swerve and they had the whole group together, the whole gang together in NXT. She was a great part of that group and the aesthetic of that group. She just, she just has a certain physical charisma about her, but then the bell would ring and you could see that she had no business on television. So I was relieved when I heard the Viking Raiders music hit before the match could even begin. And then at the head of the aisleway, we saw, with her back turned until she turned, we saw Sarah Logan back in WWE for the first time in over 2 years. The Raiders came out from the crowd. They ended up attacking both teams from behind and laying them out. Vega hopped the barricade to get away from Sarah Logan. Ivar hit a top rope splash on Ashanti the Adonis. Eric and Ivar then hoisted up Top Dollar. Barely. It was a load to get him up there, but they got him up there. A little shaky, but they got him up there. And and I have to say, I think he wasn't wrestling. So, he was just out there wearing street clothes. He looked like a fucking fan. They picked him up and they slammed it. He looked like a fucking fan out of the crowd. So they slammed Top Dollar. And that was the end of him. Sarah Logan brought B-Fab into the ring. B-Fab tried to fight back. Logan propelled her up into the air and hit her with a headbutt. Made a great sound on the way down. That took down B-Fab. And they posed to end the segment. So Sarah Logan now has the sides of her head shaved. And the top half of her forehead and her head, all black makeup. That's her new look. But I like her being added to the team. I like them as a trio together. So it's good that we finally have them back. How many weeks? Felt like 8 weeks of vignettes. Finally, the Viking Raiders have returned. We had the closing segment. We're already at the end of the show. We had the closing segment of the show. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, they were out next to make some sort of announcement. Roman said that he had some kind of business to handle. And an Usi chant broke out. Roman cut it off by having Indianapolis acknowledge him. Paul Heyman took the microphone. He talked about how he and Roman were talking on their private jet on their way to this hellhole. Heyman talked about the great sports rivalries and said that the Usos and the New Day is not one of them because the New Day cannot compare to the Usos. And he handed the microphone back to Roman Reigns. Reigns said it's not easy being his cousin because everybody has acknowledged his greatness throughout his entire life. He said that he never thought this moment would come, but he was interrupted just as he was about to address the Usos. So it looked to me like he was going to, for the very first time, he was going to acknowledge the Usos. But we'll never know because he was interrupted by the Brawling Brutes. And out came Butch and out came Ridge Holland. And Holland said that it was fight night, but they brought back up Sheamus's music hit. First time we've seen him since the attack many weeks ago. Then he went off and got hitched. Came out, he had a cast on his arm. And he was all ready to cut a promo on the Bloodline, and then we couldn't hear a word he was saying because the microphone kept cutting out on Sheamus. And they cut back to the ring, and you could see the gears going in Roman's head, and all of a sudden he starts laughing, this really forced laugh, and he's like, we can't even hear what you're saying. You can't even get the microphone to work. What are you going to do to us? So Sheamus said, well, I'll show you what I'm going to do to you. And all three Brawling Brutes got into the ring, and they did what they do. They started swinging, and a brawl erupted. Then we heard Drew McIntyre's music. And Drew came out. He took out Jimmy on his way to the ring. Then he headbutted Jay. So then he came face-to-face in the ring with Solo Sikoa, the man who cost him quite possibly the WWE Universal Championship at Clash at the Castle. Face-to-face with Solo Sikoa. And he put him down with a clothesline. Reigns then blasted Drew with a big boot. Started raining down punches on him until Sheamus came over. And he attacked Roman. And the show closed with a giant brawl. And some of the sting was taken out of it because of the mic botch. The mic didn't work for Sheamus. But I don't know. Even though there was a giant brawl to close out the show, it came off a little flat. But now we know War Games is going to be 5-on-5. War Games is always 5-on-5. And we know that also from the advertising. So even though it was set up as 4-on-4 tonight, it's going to end up being 5-on-5. And it looks to be Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and I would imagine Sami Zayn is added. All right, so that gives us 5. And on the babyface side, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Butch, Ridge Holland, And I would imagine Kevin Owens, who has been largely absent from television now for weeks, but it's just exactly what I've been predicting and pitching and saying for weeks. The Bloodline has to be in War Games. Who do you put on the other side? You put people that the Bloodline have wronged. They have wronged Drew McIntyre, right? They fucked him over at Clash at the Castle. They fucked up Sheamus on TV a few weeks ago and tried to end his career. That's why the Brutes are in there. Brutes just had a match at Crown Jewel with the Usos. Kevin Owens, you'd have to go back a little bit farther, but if you think back early in Roman's run, before Jimmy came back from his injury and before Solo Sikoa was even a thing and Sami Zayn was part of the group, it was Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and Jey Uso. Jey Uso was main event Jey. And he kept screwing over Kevin Owens every single time. Every match that Kevin Owens had with Roman Reigns, as close as he came to becoming Universal Champion, Jey Uso was there to screw him over. And even though it was a while ago, he has not forgotten about it. He has every right to be part of this match and want revenge on the Bloodline. That, and he sees what's going on with his good buddy Sami. He knows he's being taken advantage of. He knows he's being brainwashed. You have the history there between KO and Sami Zayn, so it would be just a natural fit to add them to the match, and there you go. You have your 5-on-5. That would be my guess as far as how that ends up. So the seeds are planted, the stage is set, but I guess we're never going to know what that business was that Roman came out to transact. Remember, he said he was coming out at the end of the show tonight because he had some business to attend to. But we don't know. We don't know what that business was. Maybe he was going to come out and tell us he just saved 15% on his car insurance by switching to Geico. And the Gecko was going to come out and he was going to acknowledge him. Who knows? But if the winner of the World Cup tournament is going to get an Intercontinental title match with Gunther at Survivor Series, and we don't know that, but if Survivor Series is where it happens, then we know it's not going to be Butch or Sami Zayn going to the finals, because they're not going to wrestle Walter, and then they're going to be in a War Games match later on. So that would seem to take Sami out of the equation and Butch out of the equation. Nakamura has already been eliminated. Jinder Mahal, let's be honest, he was eliminated before he even hit the ring. Next week, it's going to be Ricochet and Ali. So that'll narrow it down a little bit. Braun Strowman has advanced. So I look at this, and most likely, you know, again, it's going to be Braun Strowman. If I had to venture a guess, right, gun to head, who do I think is going to win the World Cup and challenge him, possibly at Survivor Series? I think they go with the big man match. I think they go with Strowman and Gunther. But, man, it would be quite poetic for Strowman to go down to either Ricochet or Ali. But objectively, when I look at this and I say, if you're going to have Walter defending the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series, what is the biggest possible match of the available names in this tournament? What is the biggest name you could put in the ring with him? It's Braun Strowman. Because whether you like the guy or not, Strowman is over in front of the live crowd. Strowman and Walter is a match that we have never seen before. And it's an opponent for Walter that, unlike a lot of the people he has found himself in the ring with the exception of Sheamus, is physically bigger than him. And I think that has to be the leading candidate to win the entire thing, would be Braun Strowman. But that was Smackdown tonight. This is the Twitter poll here. About 66% of you have given this show the old thumbs up. 20% thumbs in the middle and 13% thumbs down. And, you know, BlissFan, yes, BlissFan makes a very good point, which is that it would be the battle of the power bombs. Sid would be proud. They do Strowman and Gunther at Survivor Series. Strowman's been using the power bomb. Kind of makes me wonder if they've been doing that on purpose in preparation for this match. But that is true, yes. It would be the battle of the power bombs. Deputy Dog says, I can see Omos costing Braun to lose. Now, are you saying that you see him costing Braun to lose in the finals of the tournament, or costing him to lose at Survivor Series? Yeah, I could see that. I could see him getting involved. I just think when I look at the available names, yes, it would be funny to me if Strowman lost to Ricochet, or if Strowman lost to Ali, who went on Twitter and says, hey, can you teach me how to get fired? Poking fun at the fact that Strowman was fired, last year from the company. And I think it would be poetic justice. But I also look at it from a business perspective, and I say that if you were advertising the biggest possible IC title match for that show, of the available names, you go with Braun Strowman to challenge Gunther. So I think that's the way. Ultimately, I think that's the decision that Triple H is probably going to make. But let's switch on over to your Super Chats here. See what you guys have to say about War Games and what you think the matches might be. Coming up at the Survivor Series. I thank you, by the way, for all your Super Chat support. Those of you who do drop a dono on the live stream. Regina, that's a very good point. Sid and Vader had a powerbomb versus powerbomb match in 1996, and neither used the powerbomb in the match. Yeah, didn't Sid win with a chokeslam? I think he won with a chokeslam. Drew McIncock, shout out Solo, and all my Solo Maniacs. Shout out to you as well, Drew. Brumakian Productions with the $5 super chat says, enough is enough and it's time for a change. He's going heel and it comes at Survivor Series. All right then. Well, thank you for the dono. Give Me Backshot says, lately Smackdown is better than Raw and Dynamite. What about you? Smackdown on most weeks is the more enjoyable of the shows. Sometimes Dynamite beats it out, but yes. Of late, Raw has fallen back to the back of the line again. Google Chrome user. Google Chrome user is now, see, it's so, you make him so long, I don't even know what it says. He's suing somebody. LA Knight and Bray is good because it brings more attention specifically to people who don't watch NXT or know, what does this say? Here we go. Or no Eli Drake. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a good spot for him to be in. It's just good to see him back in the role that he should have been in from day one. I'm just happy he's finally himself. When he's on screen, you can just see it. The guy oozes charisma. There's no reason he can't be a big star for them. Shinakuma. What is one unnecessary bump that comes to your mind that should not have been taken place? Mine is the Undertaker 2008 table spot at Extreme Rules. First one that comes to mind is the Samoa Joe bump from the match he had with, I believe it was Sting in TNA. I don't remember what show it was. If it was a Bound for Glory, I don't remember, but I will never get the image out of my head. And how he wasn't more seriously injured, I'll never know. But that crazy, just completely stupid, unnecessary dive when he was up in the not the balcony, but he was in the crowd, mezzanine or whatever, and he like backed all the way up, and then he just ran and jumped and dove, and he landed with his back first on the steps, like by the hand railing and the steps. Why would you do that? I don't even know what he was attempting to do. No wonder he's so injury prone in recent years. Hey, bumps like that, eventually they're going to catch up with you. Lakers Pats, bigger dumpster fire, Twitter Blue or the NWA? Oh boy. Well, this week I would say, actually, I was gonna say the NWA, but they're both fucking dumpster fires this week. Elon Musk has no fucking idea what he's doing. Everybody, I look at my timeline now, every fucking Joe Schmo has a check mark next to their name. And now all I'm seeing are parody accounts. There's an Eric Bischoff parody account that looked real at first. People are responding to it like it's the real Eric Bischoff. This is the problem now. This is the problem. And now I hear he has rescinded. From what I read, he has rescinded now the whole $8 for a checkmark plan. This guy has no fucking idea what he's doing. He doesn't have a fucking clue. I don't know how much longer we're even going to have Twitter polls. I'm going to have to move the polls. I'm going to have to do YouTube chat polls. Or polls on some other platform. Because I don't think Twitter is going to be around for the long haul here. Tripod, rest in power, Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. Yes, I was very sorry to hear that Kevin Conroy passed away after a short illness, short bout with cancer. And Gallagher. He used to smash watermelons. The comedian Gallagher also passed away. Apparently he was sick for a very long time. Had a series of heart attacks over the years, and I believe he was in hospice for a while, so very sad. Shikamaru 1218 with the $5 super chat. The tribal chief has nothing on the one true champion, the master. I don't know who that is, but thank you for the $5. Rodimus Prime, happy 15-year out. There goes that. Down goes Disco. Thank you, La Parca. One of the great moments in Nitro history. Rodimus says, happy 15-year anniversary. Been listening to the show for almost a decade. Love the streams. Thank you for everything you do. And love the content. Rodimus, thank you for the support. See your name pop up every week. It means a lot. Thank you. Crazy Casey, do you think that finally done seeing the New Day versus the Usos, or do you think that we are going to see more matches? Longtime fan of yours. I mean, it's not the last time we're ever going to see the New Day and the Usos. I think it'll be the last time for a while, though, yes. Last time ever? Last time in the next year? No. No, not at all. James Hollins, how do you feel about a bad news Barrett returns sometime in the future for a segment? I'm down for that. I don't think we've seen the last of Wade Barrett in the ring. I think we'll get an in-ring return, maybe even a Royal Rumble cameo. Joseph Brooks, $9.99 super chat. Do you think instead of turning Lashley heel, it would be better to turn him into a tweener, like how they did with Brock in 2015 to 2016? He was a heel, but always got cheered. He would even beat up heels as well. Well, I mean, it kind of feels like that's what he is now, to be honest with you. That's kind of what it feels like now. I don't know that he's a full-on heel. He kind of feels tweenerish to me. We've got Dan Richards. Buy or sell. Sami Zayn against Roman Reigns or Cody against Roman. Hey, Kari, thank you, Kari, for the subscribe. Kari Hansen just joined the channel. Buy or sell, Zayn against Roman or Cody against Roman, with Roman dropping the title at WrestleMania. What would you do with this? What would you do with the sell guy at WrestleMania? Well, if you did Roman and Sami at WrestleMania, and it's not going to be Roman and Sami at WrestleMania, but if you did Roman and Sami, then you would do Cody and Seth for the United States Championship. Of course, the question is, are they really pushing Rollins now as a babyface? That complicates things a little bit. But if Cody's not wrestling for the WWE title, which he should be, then the US title and Seth Rollins is the next thing that makes sense. Which would I do? You know, if it were up to me, Elimination Chamber is in Montreal in February. I would love for there to be a way to do Roman and Sami one-on-one for the championship. Just imagine the reaction, the emotion in that building and the reaction to every near fall when they think that Sami has that title won. And of course, he would fall just short. But that match would have incredible heat. And when the Bloodline screws him over and he loses, it dovetails perfectly into him and KO joining forces to challenge the Usos to take the titles off them at WrestleMania. So even if they don't do Roman and Sami one-on-one, if they do an Elimination Chamber match and the both of them are in it, that would work too. And it comes down to Roman and Sami, you could do the same exact thing. It comes down to the two of them. I don't want to get away from Roman or KO and Sami winning the tag belts from the Usos. I want that to be the direction for WrestleMania. Then you could do Cody and Roman. Sean Waters, thank you for the $5 super chat. What do you think of Seth Rollins being the fifth man for War Games and revisit the feud with Roman for the championship at the Royal Rumble? He would, putting Rollins in there would be interesting. I would rather it be KO. Rollins has a title. I think he should be defending that title. We're already going to have Roman as the champion. He's not defending the title. The Usos are the champions. They're not defending the title. I think the secondary title should at least be defended on that show. Again, you have Gunther putting the IC title on the line against the winner of the World Cup. Rollins defends his title against somebody, or maybe a multi-man match. We already know the SmackDown women's title match. Bianca is going to be in the War Games match. There's no Raw women's title match. So I wouldn't put Rollins in War Games, but I think revisiting him and Roman would be a good idea. Los Wuanti with the $4.99. Gonna listen during my shift tomorrow. Make sure that you all like for Be the Booker. It makes the deliveries way more fun. Also, Omos as the heavy in the Hurt Business. I mean, it sure looks to me like we're gonna get a Hurt Business return soon. If so, I think Omos would probably end up being part of the group. Keyshawn Johnson with the $9.99. The Keyshawn Johnson. Hey, I've been a listener for a very long time, and I have a question. If The Undertaker would have never been injured in '94, who would have been a good opponent for him at WrestleMania 10 and why? I've often wondered if he didn't take that break that he took from the Rumble to SummerSlam, what would he have been doing on that show? That was a big WrestleMania for him not to be part of. And I'm just looking, he was wrestling Yokozuna in January. So could he have been doing something, could he have been involved in some way still with him? I guess probably not, because you want to have the Royal Rumble winner get the title shot. So if he's not part of the WWE title picture, and they already had the ladder match for the IC, and Brett was wrestling Owen, I don't really see there being another great spot for him. I think Crush. When I think of who could the Undertaker have wrestled? Savage had the match with Crush, but Crush was also one of those people who, caused Undertaker to lose in the casket match at the Royal Rumble. I know he and Taker were very good friends. I'm sure they would have loved working with each other. Maybe we don't get Savage in Crush and we actually get Undertaker in Crush, because I don't really see a better opponent for him on that show. I don't know who else it would be. Dr. Dakota Scorpio. I think we ought to tell Google Chrome to slow down. He keeps getting into trouble. Macho Punk. Too sweet, me Solomonster. Fan since 2013. All the love. Too sweet, brother. Too sweet. Sean Longworth with the $5. Just got out of work. Starting the stream from the beginning. Wanted to show some love. Like I say to my line cooks, you are my motherfucking dog. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Juan Ocampo, congrats to McAfee and his wife on the pregnancy. Yes, Pat McAfee is pregnant. Well, he's not pregnant, but his wife is pregnant. Michael Cole was on today or yesterday? Yesterday's episode of the Pat McAfee show. I think he was on, I think, for the full 4 hours. And it was interesting. If you didn't see that, it's worth going back and checking out parts of it. But yeah, they were talking about his expecting a child. So now he's got that going on, in addition to all the other stuff he's doing. But they were talking about how crazy it really would have been if he would have done what he wanted to originally do, which was do College Game Day and stay with SmackDown. He would have run himself ragged. He would have killed himself. I mean, it would have been impossible. Michael Cole says he was actually in Cardiff for Clash at the Castle when he got the text message from McAfee saying, don't hate me for this. And then Cole said, uh-oh, and he picked up the phone and he called him, and then he got the news that McAfee was offered this amazing gig and he was going to take it. And Cole said he was happy for him, but he was also upset because he enjoys coming to work and working with Pat. And Cole said he called his wife to tell her the news, and his wife was like, why, just why wouldn't you be happy for him? Like, you're being kind of selfish here. He goes, nah, you're right. I am being selfish. But Pat should be back sometime in January. The belief is that he'll be back in January at some point. I think Wade Barrett, though, in the meantime, is doing a fine job. Vontel has the full gear build just felt uninspiring. Outside of the Moxley and MJF and Regal stuff, yeah. Yeah, it has not been a very exciting build for this pay-per-view. Wink the Cosmic Grandma, Cody against Reigns at WrestleMania or Sammy against Reigns? Just answered that. I think it should be Cody and Roman. If you're going to do Sammy and Roman, you do it at the Elimination Chamber show. You do it in Montreal. And Marquand, 1976, with the $10 super chat, just got a new job in sharing the wealth. You had me, LOL, when you said Zaya and Lacey exchange was effing terrible. Never change, my good man. I only speak the truth. It was fucking awful. But thank you, Marquand. And Tim Allen with the $5 super chat. There he is. Thank you, Tim. Do you think John Cena has a match at WrestleMania, and who do you want him to face? I feel like John Cena is going to wrestle at WrestleMania, and I think it would be John Cena and Austin Theory. That was the match that was rumored for SummerSlam. And I know a lot was said. I said a lot about what they did with Theory on Monday and how stupid it was. And look, I threw the word buried around. Which I thought was very appropriate because as far as what they did to him on Monday, I mean, that's exactly how it came across. The guy was buried. Doesn't mean that he can't climb out of the hole and that he'll never recover from this. I still think that the John Cena Austin Theory match is on the table. I think it's on the table for WrestleMania. And I think it would be a great opportunity for Austin Theory. I think it would be a very good match for him. Justin Jack with the $2 super chat coming in says, hello, Solo. I am currently playing Cyberpunk 2077. Did they take care of all the bugs? I remember everybody was complaining about the bugs in the game when it first came out. But it came out many months ago. I would assume by now that all of the issues have been addressed. I would hope. Cyberpunk 2077. God of War. People throwing all these names at. And I'm just sitting here waiting for AEW Fight Forever. Still have no date on when Fight Forever is coming out, but when it does, we'll do at least one Sound Off Gamer for Fight Forever. I don't know what the story mode will be like in that game, if it'll be interesting enough to do a whole series like I was doing with WWE 2K, but we'll definitely do Fight Forever when it comes out. And Mr. Notorious Chico dropping a $5 super chat here. So I'm over this Ken or Kevin Patrick guy on Raw. He has no personality. For lead commentator, who do you think should replace him? Look, I don't have a good name for you. As much as I miss Morrow on commentary, I think him doing full-time, work in the company is probably not good for his fucking health. And that has to come first. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer as far as who replaces him. I don't. Maybe they should just bring in the House of Glory commentators to commentate for Raw. I think we would do a fine job. Slim Yoshi dropping the $20 creepy Jeff Hardy super chat. Hey Yoshi. Says, I was watching Brian Zane's Survivor Series 2002 review, and he mentioned that Triple H fought really hard to bring back War Games for that event, but Vince was against it, and the Chamber was the compromise. Is it true? Yes, that was the story that I heard as well. Triple H pitched it. Vince didn't want to do it. It wasn't his idea. Elimination Chamber was sort of their version of it. And Triple H wanted to do it because he ended up bringing it to NXT. He knew it wasn't going to happen on the main roster, so he said, fuck it, I'll bring it back for NXT. Triple H is an old school guy. He grew up watching the NWA. He grew up watching Ric Flair and the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes in those War Games matches, and Nikita Koloff and Lex Luger. and all those people. Vince McMahon didn't know from that. You think Vince McMahon knew what War Games was? And even if he did, he didn't create it. I mean, it was a dumb idea. The fact that they could have had the trademark for it, they let it lapse. Fucking Court Bauer of MLW owned the trademark to War Games for a while until Triple H was able to, they were able to negotiate a deal to get it back. But that's how little they cared about it. So yeah, we could have had War Games 20 years ago, but Vince said no, he didn't want to do it. Dr. Dakota Scorpio says, no, it's AEW wait forever now. For real, though, before the All Out stuff, it was planned to be released by the end of the year, but not sure now. Yeah, I had heard that too, but there was never any firm date on that. My guess would be pretty early in 2023, but what does that mean? January? March? Where are they in the development of the game? I don't think there's been any recent updates. I thought they said there was going to be some kind of announcement, possibly at Full Gear. I would wait and see. At Full Gear, they might air some kind of commercial. I would not be shocked if during the Full Gear pay-per-view next weekend, we get an announcement about an actual release date for the video game. And yes, Bliss fan, I believe CM Punk, I think, is still on the cover of the game. You get to a point where it's late enough in the process, there's not a whole lot you can do. They were going to build the entire game around him. And now it's probably too late to make a change. So they may end up with a game that has CM Punk on the cover, which is hilarious. Anyway, I mentioned this earlier on in the stream. So I will just remind you one more time for anybody who may have missed it. We do have the brand new 15-year anniversary shirt. It is up on Pro Wrestling Tees. Please show some love. They have it in black. They have it in white. It's on 2 separate pages. I don't know why they have it set up that way. You should have a drop-down menu and pick the color you want, but I have to create a different page for each color. So we have a black page and a white page. I don't know why that is, but you can choose whichever one you like. And support the show if you would like to do so. Mr. Notorious Chico says, so if you can make a 5-on-5 War Games in 1997 in November for WWF, who would your teams be? Well, you would have the Hart Foundation on one side, right? You'd have Brett, you'd have Owen, you'd have Bulldog, and they're in Canada, no less. So, I mean, you got to have... I mean, think about the heat in the Saddle Dome in July for Canadian Stampede. So imagine replicating that in Montreal in a War Games match, right? So you got Brett, you got Owen, you got Davey, you got Anvil. And if he was able to wrestle, well, he was dead. So I guess, yeah, so much for that. But I was going to say Pillman. I guess that wouldn't work. But you have Brett, Owen, Davey, and Anvil. And if they added a 5th guy, I don't know who that would be. But on the other side, you would have Shawn Michaels. You would have Triple H. And then you would flesh out the rest. I'm trying to think, who would you team with DX? Because the Outlaws were not with them at that point. I mean, you could have had, you could actually, nah, you don't want to do that. I don't know, I'd have to think about that a little. How I would flesh out the teams, but I kind of feel like you would want DX on one side and the Hart Foundation on the other. But then who do you put with Shawn and Triple H? Because nobody liked them. And nobody... Like, even on TV, like, it's not like they had all these different allies. So you'd have to find some heels where it would make sense. Austin, right, had no love lost with the Hart Foundation, but would Stone Cold team up with Shawn Michaels? They were tag team champions a few months before that. Maybe Michaels and Triple H and Austin, and then find another 1 or 2 baby faces, Shamrock or somebody, and they could be a team. So, yeah, I think that could have worked. Yeah, before Shawn turned heel, he was going to be on the babyface side of that 10-man tag in July. Think about that. The match was originally going to be Austin and Sid and Michaels and LOD. Goldust and Shamrock were not factored into that match originally. So you could have done something like that inside War Games. The Patriot. The Patriot. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, replace Punk with Vacant on the cover of AEW. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. All right, so I'm going to be back with you on Sunday, episode 782 of the podcast. We have a lot to get into on there. We're going to be talking about, of course, also the latest Tales from the Territories, but we have all of the big news. I will talk about Road Dogg and Bret Hart. I will talk about the Nick Aldis, Billy Corgan, NWA fiasco, and any other news that may pop up. I will be live again with you on Monday. That'll be for the Raw stream as we head towards Survivor Series and all of the other usual streams during the week. Again, before I leave you, please remember, I mentioned this at the top. YouTube changed things up a little bit. So now when you go to the main page, it lists the most recent videos as the most recent uploads. The live streams are going to be categorized a little bit differently in the section below. It's not a big deal, but some people may look at that and be confused. Don't be. That's just the new YouTube change, and it's stupid and it sucks, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done. Uffman Entertainment. Would Rick Rude come out of retirement to join DX? Would Rick Rude come out of retirement to join? I don't know what you mean. To join DX. He was part of DX, and then he didn't want to have any part of DX when he saw what happened to Bret Hart. He was a Bret Hart guy, not a Shawn Michaels guy. And frankly, Rick Rude was never a good fit for DX to begin with. That was a very bizarre position to put him in. So no Rick Rude in DX. Didn't make sense to me then, doesn't make sense to me now. All right, I'll see you guys back here live on Monday night, and check out 782 on Sunday. Thank you for all of the support throughout the week. Less so tonight, but whatever I did, I will try to do better for you next time. Have a good weekend. Take care, guys.